Right, Brawl for All. I've talked about this before in my earlier awful videos. I know everyone hates it, I know it shortened careers, I know fans in attendance chanted "We want wrestling," and yes, I would prefer to watch wrestling matches when I decide to watch a wrestling show, you know? But I also like watching dudes fight. Every guy in this tournament agreed to be in, except Dan Severn. Severn was a stand-in for round 1 because someone pulled out, and that's why he didn't compete in any other matches. But do keep in mind that the competitors willingly went into this. They had a choice, and many guys also refused to compete. Russo gets a lot of hate for this tournament, and again, I would prefer to watch pro wrestling. If I wanted to watch shoot fights or tough man fights, then I'd watch something else. But I'm not going to turn the channel if two men are willing to fight each other for prize money. Sorry, but that's just me. 3 1-minute rounds, 5 points for most punches per round, 5 points for a takedown, and 10 points for a knockdown. Get knocked out, you're history, brother. I'm going to keep my own Brawl for All scorecard for every round, and I'll show you how I scored it versus the judges' scores, because if I remember correctly, some of the official scoring was way off the mark, in my opinion. We're going to see how much of an absolute unit Steve Blackman is here. He takes Mero down straight away, so that's 5 points already. Golden Gloves boxing champion Mark Mero swings and he hits a few flies before getting taken down again. He then lands 2 body shots, but again he's taken down by Big Stevie Cool. Mero then gets punched in the face as the crowd chant boring. Blackman performs another takedown before the end of round 1, and it looks like Blackman has Mero's number big time here. Marvelous Mark is getting totally motherfucked. So I scored that one as 4 takedowns for Blackman, so 20 points for Steve, and most punches landed to Mero, so that's 5 points for Marvelous Mark. The WWF think Blackman landed the most punches, but I don't think he did. Round 2 begins, the two get in a punch before Blackman performs a double leg takedown. Mark gets a little intimidated next as Blackman cocks his fist back, and there's another takedown as JR brings up the fact that a skilled wrestler will always beat a skilled boxer. Mero then lands an uppercut and Blackman replies with a big right hand. Steve takes Mero down again as it seems less and less likely that Mark can win this thing. Mark knows he needs to go for a knockout, so he gets in one last punch before the bell rings, but Blackman's on his feet. So I scored that one 15 points for Blackman and 5 points again for Mero for the most punches. In the final round, Mero gets caught again with another takedown. Blackman misses a few wild swings, but he's able to instantly put Mero down with one more takedown. There's 2 more takedowns in total, and during the final moments, Mero got in a couple of punches, but that's the end of it. I've got the same scores as round 2, so in total, I had it 50 points to Blackman and 15 points to Mero. Blackman's then announced as the winner of this first round match. We don't see the official judges' scorecards at the end, so that's pretty annoying. The two men show some camaraderie before leaving the ring, and you know, this also completely messes up the current storylines WWF had going on, what with Blackman not getting along with Mero and all that. But there you go, the first ever Brawl for All match is over, and fans absolutely hated it. So this whole tournament was put together because Vince Russo was tired of hearing Bradshaw talk like a tough guy backstage. That's right, other guys are fighting because Russo wouldn't step up to Bradshaw himself and do something about it. So all Mr. Russo wanted to see was a big bully get knocked down a few pegs, and Mark Canterbury, aka Henry Godwin, aka Cyborg Justice 1, is just the man / android to do it. The bell rings for round 1, ding ding, and oh boy. Blackman and Mero had a little discipline at least. These two are just throwing punches and hoping for a knockout. I don't know what to say here. Bradshaw's definitely landing more punches and Robot Monster's definitely taking more punishment. Mark goes for a takedown in the final seconds, but he can't get Bradshaw off his feet. So I'll give 5 points to Big Bully Balls for round 1. Bradshaw looks absolutely exhausted after the first round, but he doesn't take a seat in his corner. Round 2 begins, and once again the robot's on the back foot. About 20 seconds in, and Bradshaw almost knocks Mark out and he goes for the kill, but the hog farmer stays on his feet after taking a few hard shots. Mark again tries a takedown. He survived the onslaught, but he's not going to lift Bradshaw up. It almost looks like Mark wants to get out of there as the bell rings to end round 2, and yeah, that's another easy round for Bradshaw. The crowd chant boring and Goldberg as round 3 begins, and Mark has changed game plan. He manages to take Bradshaw down, and if he can do this 2 more times, he'll at least draw with Bradshaw. As hard as he tries, he's not able to do it. Bradshaw gets in a few right hands at the end of the match, and that's going to be an easy win for Big Justin Hawk. No idea why I bothered with a scorecard here. So there you go, mid-carders trying to legit knock each other out on Raw. More to come next week. So, Baracus, remember this guy? He had a few pre-tape promos on Raw, but his debut was abandoned with WWF wanting him to get more in-ring experience. So he wrestled a ton of dark matches and live events, and he worked in ECW briefly before coming back to do even more house shows. He's finally arrived to Raw to make a statement in the Brawl for All though. Sure would be simultaneously funny and sad if Vega kicked his ass tonight in this fight. Boxing gloves mean no nerve pinches for Savio, so Mr. Vega could be in trouble here. Savio fails to take Baracus down while Baracus successfully brings Savio to the mat, so that's a point for Baracus. Savio then says F this and he completely lights Baracus up with a ton of punches. Some land, some don't, but Baracus definitely gets stunned and Savio almost gets a knockout. Big Baracus may look the part, but it goes to show that being a gym or steroid bro doesn't mean you can actually fight. I score round 1 at 5 points each. In round 2, there are no takedowns, just Baracus strangely keeping his hands down and allowing Savio to absolutely bother him. It's like the previous round completely messed with his psyche and he's now wishing he didn't step up to this warrior from Puerto Rico. Savio gains 5 points in round 2. In round 3, Savio takes Baracus down. He puts him on the mat after a left hand and Baracus has no chance at all here. He's out on his feet. That's another 10 points for Vega, so in total Savio gets 20 points and Baracus gets 5. Savio Vega is now my pick to win this whole tournament. I was about to say it's dangerous putting Road Warrior Hawk in this Brawl for All tournament, what with the Road Warriors being seen as badasses and all that, but really their reputation has been so badly damaged over this past year that it hardly even matters at this point. Hawk and Draws have a decent fight here though. The Road Warrior throws a ton of punches at the beginning of round 1 and Draws seems a bit hesitant at first, but a straight right from Puke shows Hawk that the newcomer means business and he's not intimidated. Draws then misses a big right hook, and like Baracus earlier on, he doesn't put his hands up, giving Hawk the chance to lay in a few easy shots. Draws takes another hard shot in the corner, but he comes back with one of his own. Hawk's mouth guard comes out, referee Danny Hodge puts it back in, and Draws tries a takedown just before the bell rings. I'd give Hawk 5 points for most punches here, and that's it. The takedown was just a little too late. Draws blocks a takedown at the beginning of round 2, he then hits Hawk with a straight right hand and Hawk replies with 2 of his own, the first one getting more than the second. Draws then knocks Hawk into the corner with a right hook, yet he doesn't stay on his opponent for some reason. Hawk just walks back out and the fight continues on. Draws then hurts his right hand when it connects with Hawk's face. Hawk loses his mouth guard again, but Hodge doesn't get a chance to put it back in. The two continue to throw punches until the end of round 2, and that was a tough one to score. I think Hawk threw more punches even though Draws's were more effective, so it's another 5 points to Hawk. Round 3 begins and Hawk starts it off with more punches that lack control, but they still connect. His mouthpiece falls out again, so Draws spits his own guard out to even the playing field. Fair play lads, fair play. There's no takedowns here, just two men trying to knock each other out, and again I think Hawk landed more punches than Draws. I score every round 5 points to Hawk, but the judges call it a draw. The punches Draws landed definitely did more damage, but Hawk landed more in my opinion. Gonna get the old Brawl for All scorecard out early and show you how I scored this one. Round 1, Bob Holly gets battered. Round 2, Bob Holly gets battered. Round 3, Bob Holly gets battered. It's funny too because old bombastic Bob, wearing what looks like his boxer shorts, pushes Bart before the fight, trying to act all tough. But Southpaw Bodacious Bart absolutely annihilated Sparky Plug without trying a single takedown. In round 2, it looked like Bob was gonna cry, and after another round of sheer domination, Bob looked like he completely regretted his decision to fight in this tournament. Hardcore Holly would make up for this though by attacking defenseless rookies on Tough Enough and getting his head wrecked by Brock Lesnar, so aye, good job Bob. After the fight, there's a little scuffle that was worked by the way. Bob and Bart travelled together and all they were doing here was cementing the breakup of the new Midnight Express. It was also revealed before the fight that Jim Cornette had broken away from these two because they agreed to fight each other in this tournament. Bart Gunn looked impressive though, and for some reason he looked about 4 times bigger when competing in this Brawl for All. He can definitely throw a punch too, and all the proof you need is right here on Bob Holly's face. So we may have a dark horse on our hands here. As mentioned previously, Dan Severn only fights in this first round match because someone else pulled out. Win or lose, he never planned on fighting more than once. The Godfather, meanwhile, said in a recent interview that he 100% expected to win this tournament. He was super confident that he could take everyone out, so maybe he didn't train as much as what he should have. Still though, Severn is a grappler and not a fighter, and seeing as he has to try and grapple with those boxing gloves on, then this one really wasn't as cut and dry as you might expect. Dan did end up winning the match on takedowns. I thought Godfather landed more punches in round 1 and round 2, but a takedown and most punches landed in round 3, along with a couple more takedowns in previous rounds, secured the victory for the Beast, in my opinion. Severn also wouldn't let go when the Godfather was on the mat. It was maybe instinct for Severn to keep his opponents grounded, or he was maybe trying to tire Godfather out, but nonetheless he did get warned by the referee. Nowhere in the rules does it state what happens if a fighter gets penalised, so I'm sure Dan the Man didn't really care. Not a great fight, and it really didn't help either man in terms of their overall badassery. Someone else who never had a chance was Pierre during this Brawl for All contest with Dr. Death Steve Williams. You guys know the story. Steve was the favourite to win this thing, and for good reason too. He started in Mid-South. He had legendary runs in Japan where he'd jump back and forth to the United States to show how tough he really was in WCW. Steve Williams was legit. Too legit to quit. And the WWF were fully prepared for Dr. Death to win the Brawl for All and begin a lucrative main event run. Pierre found out the hard way that Steve was tough as nails. In round 1, Williams took Pierre down right away before getting back up and almost knocking Pierre out with punches. Williams scored another takedown and Pierre salvaged 5 points right at the end for himself with a takedown. So I scored it 15 to Williams and 5 to Pierre. In round 2, the fight should have been stopped. You can tell by Pierre's body language that he didn't want to fight anymore after taking some hard punches from Dr. Death. Williams even offered his opponent a few free shots, but Pierre couldn't make the most of it. So 10 points to Dr. Death here. He also scored a takedown. In round 3, the referee thankfully gave Pierre a standing count after he walked to the corner. Twice, Pierre just stopped fighting and he tried to walk away from the fight after taking a lot of shots to the head. But I still think the ref should have stopped it earlier. You end up feeling pretty bad for Pierre once this fight ends. No takedowns in round 3, just a lot of punches. 5 points go to Williams, Dr. Death wins, and the favourite advances in the Brawl for All tournament. We got a slugfest in round 1, and look at 8-Ball. You'd think Scorpio was doomed after seeing this, but Scorpio ended up winning the whole fight. Round 2 was more grapple based, with Scorpio winning the most takedowns, and in round 3, 8-Ball tired himself out and Scorpio landed more punches. This is the Brawl for All match that pretty much puts an end to the widely reported Dr. Death push in WWF. And hey, it sucks, but listening to Steve's boy Jim Ross go silent at the end of the match always makes me laugh. It's not funny, but it is funny. Also, there are others in this tournament who did fairly well for themselves after defeat, so just remember that too. I mean, the guy who takes the most spectacular knockout still went on to become a WWE champion. I gave the first round to Williams. He got in a takedown and he also landed the most punches. Bart took a pretty hard shot too in the last few seconds of the round, so things were looking good for Doc with 10 points on the card. In round 2, Dr. Death was a bit more wild with his punches and he ended up paying for it. This takedown right here leads to a torn hamstring, but he's going to finish the fight seeing as he's still leading on points. At least I had him leading anyway, thanks to most punches landed again in round 2. In round 3, we witnessed the first knockout of the Brawl for All and the first time the crowd popped during the whole tournament. A big left of the jaw sends Williams down to the mat and he's out cold. JR goes silent for a few seconds as Bart Gunn pulls off a big upset in the Brawl for All, and it's been very well documented that this victory would actually cost Bart dearly in terms of his position in WWF. Steve Williams was the golden boy of this tournament, the chosen one, but you simply can't have a chosen one if the matches aren't predetermined. A great victory for Bart Gunn though, and an entertaining shoot fight on Raw's War. Godfather's taken Dan Severn's spot here. Remember that Dan was only a one-off replacement for someone else anyway, so Godfather's getting another shot in the Brawl for All tournament. Godfather asks Scorpio if he wants 3 ho-ho-hos instead of the beating of a lifetime, and Scorpio chooses pain. So the fight begins, and there's some pretty tight boxing to start us off, with Scorpio showing some good footwork. He tries a big right and he gets caught out with Godfather's left. Godfather then throws some hard shots with good precision, and Scorpio's forced to defend in the corner. Godfather gets 5 points for most punches landed. In round 2, Scorpio instantly goes on defense again, and again he takes another hard left hand. It looks like Scorpio's trying to tire the big man out, or maybe he's just waiting for the right opportunity to strike, but he waits way too long. Godfather gets in a few body shots and Scorpio's forced to fight out of the corner, and give him credit, Too Cold Scorpio's tough as nails. He took too many body shots here though, so it's another 5 points to Godfather. Scorpio's now going to do exactly what you'd expect him to do and go for takedowns. His first attempt gets countered though, so the plan backfires. He then tries for a knockout and you can see the effort in his face, but he's not putting the Godfather down tonight. A final takedown attempt gets blocked, but I'd still give Scorpio 5 points for most punches landed in round 3. Godfather, however, gets a point for the takedown counter. Godfather wins, and Godfather faces Bart Gunn in the Brawl for All semi-finals. Droz gets hit hard in the face at the opening bell, and Savio then goes for a takedown, but he was unsuccessful. Droz then gets in a hard right hand, and the referee tries to say that Savio slipped. Even the king can't believe Jack Doan's call here. Savio gets a few body shots in before the end of the round, and that's a hard one to score. I'd give it to Droz for the mean right hand he hit Savio with, and I'm not going to sit here and count every punch landed, so 5 points to Darren. Savio's determined as he comes out for round 2, but he's not accurate at all with his punches, leaving himself open a few times and draws counters with ease. Darren also performs a takedown in round 2. There's a genuine slip from Savio at the end of the round also, and this one's way easier to score. It's 10 points for draws. In the final round, Savio tried a takedown, but he had no control. Darren's takedown attempt was much better seconds later. Draws also knocked Savio a bit loopy during the final moments of the match, so it's another easy win here for Darren Drozdov with another 10 points. The audience got really into this one and they cheered at the end of the fight. Our second Brawl for All fight a little later on doesn't get the same crowd reaction at all. Mark Mero stepping in here for Steve Blackman. Jim Ross says it's a knee injury, but Steve's actually back at the Muvug Dojo trying to learn Dan Severn how to fight. Reports state it's going well. Here's the Brawl for All tournament brackets, so whoever wins this one faces Draws in the semi-finals. Bradshaw knows that Mero can box, so the big Texan tries a takedown after getting lit up with a left hook. The same thing happens again, only on the second attempt Bradshaw actually scores 5 points. And Bradshaw's game plan's pretty obvious after round 1. He's gonna run in like a big old bull and hope he can take Mark down. 5 points each in round 1, Mero landed more punches. At the beginning of round 2, Mero tries a quick 2-hit combo and it seems to piss Bradshaw off. The big man throws punches while holding Mark down and Bradshaw refuses to let go. I would have deducted 5 points right here, but I would have given him another 5 points after a solid takedown. Mero tries another left, but he misses. Bradshaw grapples Mero at the ropes just before the end of round 2. So again, I'd score that 5 to Mero for the most punches. After Bradshaw's point deduction, I have Mero winning this one before round 3 begins. The final round begins with Bradshaw again holding Mark at the ropes before throwing him on the mat. Jack Doan awards 5 points, but I really wouldn't have, seeing as it came from an illegal hold at the ring ropes. Mark Mero curses at the referee too after he says it's 5 points to Bradshaw, and even JBL knows that he's fighting dirty here. Mark then counters a Bradshaw takedown, and once again he refuses to let go when the referee steps in. The crowd boos while Bradshaw looks at the referee like he's stupid, but Bradshaw knows exactly what he's doing. Mark lands a few body shots, and when Bradshaw tries to grapple again, the Marvelous One lays in more punches. Bradshaw then just falls on top of Mero and the round ends. I definitely give that fight to Mark Mero, but the judges say it's a draw, so another round gets announced to a mixed reaction. In round 4, Mero goes for body shots while Bradshaw tries headshots. Bradshaw shouts at the referee after getting warned about holding on to his opponent, and then Bradshaw scores a takedown. Mero again lands more punches, but the referees decide that Bradshaw's the winner, and I don't agree at all. There never should have been a round 4 with Bradshaw bending the rules and also getting takedown points when he really shouldn't have. I'll keep the Brawl for All match short and sweet because it seems like a few of you guys are already tired of seeing these shoot fights. Godfather doesn't offer Bart Gunn a night with his gremlins, instead he's just going to kick Bart's ass apparently, and look at the way he's holding his mic with those big old boxing gloves. Round 1 was fairly even with both guys taking some hard shots. I'd say the Godfather got in the best punch right here just at the end of the round. In round 2, Godfather took quite a left hand, but he wasn't out just yet. He came back strong for about 10 seconds or so, but then another left made the Pimp Daddy a little wobbly at the knees. He was basically a punching bag for the final moments of the match, and again, Jack Doan should have stopped the fight right here. I don't blame Jack either though. He's not a legit fight official, and he was out of his element just as much as the fighters in the ring. The WWF really should have brought in some proper trained referees for these kind of fights though, because I'm 100% convinced that a lot of the injuries sustained in this tournament could have been avoided had the fight stopped when they really should have. Godfather gets knocked down at the end of the round, though he gets saved by the bell. In round 3, Godfather came out already half fucked and a big right hook knocks him out cold. It's a spectacular knockout, the crowd loves it, and the crowd are now firmly behind Bart Gunn in this tournament. The Godfather looks like he's on another planet as he wakes up in his corner, and maybe he should have offered BG a night with his gremlins after all. Backstage, Shamrock and Blackman can't get over their betrayal at the hands of Dan Severn. They're totally wrecking the place while our guy here couldn't care less. He knows exactly where Dan Severn went, he's just not going to hand over such valuable information. Before the Brawl for All match, we get another Droz' World video where Darren shows off his Odie tattoo. Seriously, these videos did this guy more harm than good. Unfortunately, Droz was unable to defeat Bradshaw in the Brawl for All, and even though it was a close fight, give JBL credit where it's due too. He's approached every fight different, and for a guy like Droz, who Bradshaw knows nothing about, he took his time to see how Darren went into the contest. Darren landed some big shots, but Bradshaw landed more punches in all 3 rounds. He also landed more impactful punches, even if things got a bit wild on more than one occasion. There was no discipline at all in Bradshaw's offense, while Droz tried a little harder to find openings. And Darren also tried the odd takedown, but Bradshaw was just too much for Puke, and so Bradshaw meets Bart Gunn in the Brawl for All final. A decent fight, but I still think it should have been Mark Merrow versus Droz in this semi-final match. Bradshaw didn't even acknowledge his opponent as he left the ring. Alright, here we go, the Brawl for All final. 75 grand for the winner, 25 grand for the runner-up. Either way, the boys are eating well tonight, although the loser could be eating through a straw. Bradshaw, the whole reason for this tournament coming together, thinks it's a good idea to go toe-to-toe with Bart Gunn, and the strategy completely fails. A right hook followed by 2 left hooks puts Bradshaw on the mat moments into round 1. And there's absolutely no way Bradshaw's going to win this thing after this knockdown. He's completely out of it. To his credit, he gets back up and he wants to continue on. So Bart Gunn goes for the kill. A left hook followed by a right hook knocks Bradshaw the fuck out, and the smoking gun gets 75 grand transferred to his bank account. A spectacular performance from Bart Gunn, and guess what? He won't wrestle another traditional match in WWF ever again. That's right, after proving to be the toughest man in the company, the absolute geniuses at WWF couldn't come up with something for Bart to do, and he'd end up taking himself off for a tour of Japan. It's not a rumour, it's a fact. Higher-ups in the company weren't happy that Bart Gunn won this thing, and his WWF career got derailed because of it. The next time we see Bart competing in the ring is against a professional tough man winner and professional boxer at WrestleMania, and we all know what happened there. Still, absolute respect for Bart Gunn and everyone who went into the Brawl for All tournament. I know it's cool to rip this whole thing apart and it goes against the grain to praise anything related to the Brawl for All, but the competitors risked it all for bragging rights and some sweet prize money. I say that's actually pretty commendable, even if the winner did get screwed over.